minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Oh my heavens, here we go again. Isn't it amazing? Life is circular in so many ways.
Oh, yes.
It just keeps coming back at you.
Like the moon.
Like the moon, like the sun rising in the east and setting in the west. It's just circles all over the place.
Oh, God, we sound like we're at some place in Santa Fe. We should have a gong. Dong, ding. And the goddess Lilith bless you today. Tong bing.
All right.
Here's some granola.
That'll make me shut up fast. Okay, so it's the second day of summer.
Yes. Beastly one.
Yes, right. 2012. That's Tom Sokolowski, who joins us on Thursdays. And yesterday, Chris Potter, editor of Pittsburgh City Paper, was here, and we were talking about this piece in this week's edition, and having trouble reaching any kind of agreement, and even even within ourselves.
Okay.
It's very complicated. And so I said, I got to ask Sokolowski tomorrow. For those of you who heard the show, we're talking about the story about the drag queen Sharon Needles, the local who won RuPaul Drag Race. Mm-hmm. She was honored a week or so ago with a proclamation by City Council, Sharon Needles Day, performed a bit on the steps of the City Hall. And it turns out that this was a very controversial proclamation, because there's a lot of people in the gay movement and in other minority groups who don't much like what she's doing. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of it seemingly seems racist. It seems, she's been known to wear swastikas, blackface, stuff like that.
Well, it's very difficult.
So what do you do?
I think what's interesting, the first thing I was going to say, do you remember, and I can't remember what the movie was, but it was I'll think of his name, a famous Jewish comedian, writer, and they did, the producers.
Oh, sure.
They remember the numbers, Springtime for Hitler. I think the notion is two things. One, drag queens have always been on one side of sort of the gay divide. But we have to remember that in addition to all the frou-frou, that it was the drag queens who it was a day in June, I think it was June 29th, if I'm not mistaken, when in 1969 rather, when Judy Garland died, and the police came in and tried to bash up and jail people in a gay bar in New York called the Stonewall. The drag queens just got off and sort of said, we're not taking any of this anymore. And there was this huge battle royal.
I didn't realize that Stonewall was drag queens.
Yeah,
it was
a bar.
Lines.
Yes. And they just said, we're not going to take this anymore.
And it was after Garland's death.
Yeah,
and
because they were all bereaved and what have you. And it was just, and so anyway, so one thinks of drag queens, one thinks of marabou and sequins and all that sort of thing. But they have teeth. And most oftentimes when they have teeth, they do it through the lines, which can be very campy, but also very bitter, whatever. And I think Sharon Needles has taken it to a sort of nth degree, maybe in a way trying to suggest that there is a kind of mainstream drag, and she's really the avant-garde. Because even in her look, I didn't watch the show more than a couple times. And her
look is dark and
it's dark. It's not the notion of being, if you think of RuPaul, the host of that show, who looks beautiful when he's done up as a woman, and she would say, she wasn't the pretty one. She was the one where she was the drag queen who was herself in costume.
She was the dangerous looking one, right?
And so I think she was playing with the art form. Now, I mean, some of the things she did were perhaps slightly juvenile, but I think, again, go back to Springtime for Hitler, or I think every time when someone starts to break a boundary, it hurts. And now we do have enough, there's been enough acceptance of gay people in recent years, thank God, the Marriage Act and what have you, that there is even a sort of mainstream of the gay community who does not want to be seen or be associated with drag or people in jock straps dancing on top of trucks. Yeah. And so therefore, I think, to be avant-garde and to push buttons and to irritate and maybe even hurt is something that artists do. Now, I'm not going to be on record and say, she's a great artist. But I think it was the one time I did see the show, she did stand out for her antics and her dancing. As I remember, it was all sort of very mechanical, and it wasn't sort of beautiful swanning about like Gypsy Rose Lee. So I think she's an interesting character.
Okay, so you will... and it actually is called, I hadn't even heard this term, transgressional art. Have you heard that?
Well, truly, I think transgressional art is anything that transgresses. Remember we talked last time about zones of tranquility and zones of transgression. Think of, what was his play? Cry. What was it? The poet Ginsberg, or what was it? Cry? Shout.
Howl.
And words he used there.
Yeah.
And I find it interesting that, on the one hand, some of the people, like the one guy who was a bartender or something at this bar where she performs here in Pittsburgh. Yes. And he, I guess, is African-American, said he found her racist. But then you look at certain other rap artists who are black who will say very homophobic things. So I think, that kind of aggressiveness in the arts it's across the board, and you can't make one person holier than others.
I guess what she seems to be is very self-centered. So she's not she's not seeing and doesn't even care to. She doesn't care.
Well, she's an artist, and I'm doing that with inverted commas. That doesn't mean an artist has to be a philanthropist or a social activist.
Or a philosopher.
She's out there to sort of,
just has a point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah?
And if you like it, fine. If you don't buy a ticket.
Okay. All right. So, okay. I figured that's what you'd say.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I wouldn't pay to go to see her. I'm not that interested in drag, but...
I think it's interesting that you brought up, though, that there's now, with increasing acceptance of gays in our culture, that there are probably a growing number of gays who wince when they see the antics of...
I remember a very dear friend of mine named Norman Clayblatt, who's been the chief curator at the Jewish Museum for many years, did a groundbreaking show. Because before I came to Pittsburgh, so maybe 20 years ago, and it was called, and the Jewish Museum, which was set up 50 years ago, maybe or more, because there were many important Jews who were collectors, etc., and who would not.
There's a few Jewish museums. This is in Philly or New York?
No, New York City.
In New York, okay.
And this was a museum that, even though it was called the Jewish Museum from the very beginning, it was meant to be at that point, by the decision of its trustees, a museum to show contemporary art. And it's more. So
it wasn't about Jews.
No.
So what was the Jewish aspect?
Well,
of
it was called that because of its constituency and its trustees. Because it was at a time when, in the late 50s, early 60s, prominent people, if you were Jewish, would not be asked onto the board of the Metropolitan Museum, the Whitney, the Guggenheim, etc.
It was like
a shadow in a sense.
Yeah, it was like it always was. So I mean, you can't get into the
club you want to get
into. The club you get, so you have to make your own.
Right.
So
anyway, but then in subsequent times, it's become a very upstanding silver-edged institution.
Blue ribbon.
Blue ribbon, yes, on Fifth Avenue. Upper Fifth Avenue, Upper East Side. Anyway, so Norman decided to do this show looking at a lot of young artists, and the title of it was Too Jewish. And the whole point was, and it made the covers. I remember there was a cover of New York Magazine that said, "What is too Jewish?" And the whole point was, many of these people, and many people who have risen, up the ladder, want to eschew their race, their religion, their color. They want to pass in one way or another. They want to sit at the table above the salt.
Exactly.
And all of these artists were people who, in one degree or another, either played too much with looking like Hasidim, or playing on, the pickle salesman on Delancey.
So Chagall would be too Jewish.
No. This was all contemporary art, but people who played off like the stereotypes that people who'd risen up the ladder felt uncomfortable with.
Screw them is what I want to say.
Well, sure, but the show was hilarious. I remember you came in, and the first thing he had were two mannequins from a fashion show a few years before of John Galliano, or one of those very fancy French designers, and it was costumes that were inspired by Shtetl costumes, and they were wearing pesa,
payas.
Payas, and hilarious, like high fashion, but the payas, which you think of only the Hasidim wearing.
A little tefillin, the strings coming out.
Yes, right, exactly.
Right.
Then there was another person who made. What were they? Models of Dachau and that made out of Louis Vuitton boxes.
Oh, Jesus God!
But they were amazing because it was everything which, you could either laugh in some cases or like cringe a bit, but they really got you.
Yeah.
But if it was sort of like, I'm not with those. And the show was very interesting because it just brought up that bit of, you don't want to remember that your grandfather had cow shit on his Beatles.
Exactly. I hate people like that. I'm sorry.
But it was a very
I think that's something you should be proud of.
Oh, of course. But it was like that institution felt it had grown enough to be able to look
to be able to do it.
And it was the same sort of thing I think we're talking about. Not to elevate Sharon Needles to be Milton Berle, but I think you sometimes, to really get at things, have to sort of stick that needle in.
I wish I could do a Jewish accent. I never can, but I heard a funny joke the other day. Actually, my mother told me this, and she can do a great Jewish accent. So, give me a name. So,
Mordecai.
Okay, Mordecai and Sophie were having dinner, and all of a sudden Mordecai just turns red. I mean, he turns bright red and starts sort of waving his hands, and looking in great distress. And Sophie says, "Mordecai, are you?"
She's running the punchline.
Mordecai, are you choking? Are you choking? Yeah.
Are
you joking? And he says, No, I'm serious. I can't.
Well, but it's interesting that you bring this up because someone once made the point who was it? Was it Johnny Carson? Someone like that, who said, nowadays, unknowing to most people, we laugh as a nation, maybe even the world, but certainly as a nation, with a Jewish sense of humor.
Right.
That sense of self-disparaging,
right.
of complaining, of satire,
it's just
sarcasm.
become classic American.
Right.
But
it's Jewish humor.
Right, total. So
I remember this friend sent me a recording. Oh, I can't remember her name, but she was the sort of chanteuse of the Borscht Belt circuit up in,
the Catskills.
The Catskills. Oh, what was her name? Rosie or Ruby something or other. Oh, and she was hilarious. She would do this sort of Mae West sort of thing, but with a Yiddish. She was hilarious.
God, there was so much talent in that.
Yeah.
In that. It's either the immigrant generation or one down. The first, it's just amazing. And I saw something, darn it, why didn't I pull that out, about the percentage of Fortune 500 companies that are or were founded by either an immigrant or a second generation American. It's most of them. And all these anti-immigration idiots. Immigrants are always the one who push us forward. Always. And it's still happening.
Well,
I got news for you because they're hungry, they're energetic, they want their piece of the American dream.
They or their family were peddlers, and this is just peddlerism, if that's a word.
Well, they were all entrepreneurs, right?
Exactly. Entrepreneurs
on a very small scale, but then given an opportunity,
right?
But you look even now, and I'm not sure which one it is. Is it Google, Facebook? Those that's not Facebook,
well,
but
Zuckerberg.
like these but he's not an immigrant.
It's
this Bryn guy. These two Russian.
Oh right.
These two young Russian Jews. What did they?
Oh yeah, what was that company they started?
Which is theirs?
They're the ones with the language thing?
No.
What do I look up?
I don't know.
Two Jewish guys from Russia.
Young Jewish immigrants. Somebody tell us. It's one of the biggies. Okay, so what would they be? It'd be, Google?
Well, part of that is, no. Well, maybe. No, Google wasn't Russian. No.
Well, it's not that it was Russian. I'm saying
No, but I thought you said these two. Oh, you mean who? Yeah, right.
I don't know.
But, no, I think part of what it was is, I think...
Look who founded Google.
That a lot of these immigrants would not have been, just like the two Jewish story I told you, would have not have been welcome at IBM.
Larry Page and Sergey Brin.
There it is. Sergey Brin is immigrant.
It's not spelled like Sergey, though.
Okay.
That's why I said
well, maybe
Sergey, S-E-R-G-Y?
E-Y.
E-Y, okay. Well, it's...
Well, that's because it would have been written in Cyrillic alphabet originally, so you could spell it variously.
I mean, he's young as heck, but he's an immigrant. Yeah, Russian.
No, but what I was saying is that a lot of these people wouldn't be welcomed in the hierarchy of Mellon Bank, let's say.
No,
so therefore
not.
They start their own.
Right, exactly.
And also they start with products. Like the Vegematic guy in Chicago.
Well, I was at the Duquesne Club on Monday for lunch. And
did you have, what is that, crab Herzl or the spots?
The spots.
And the macaroons, those lovely macaroons.
And those wonderful macaroons. But there was, I was telling Jess, there was something like beef hash on the lunch menu, and she was stunned. Beef hash with 2 eggs stuck on top.
Oh, yes.
Which seems like a very lowbrow dish.
No, but it's a very sort of waspy.
Oh, it is a waspy dish.
Yeah.
It is?
Men's club food.
Oh, okay. But anyway, Bill Green was kind enough to invite me there, and he was saying how, the guys who founded it, Frick, Carnegie, and of course they only let their own kind in.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And so for the guys who couldn't get in, they founded the PAA, the Pittsburgh Athletic
Because it would have been about the same time, yeah.
It would have been about the same time. So for some reason they weren't quite hoity-toity enough, or they were Catholic, or who knows what.
I don't remember.
I don't know. And then, of course, the Jews couldn't get into either of those. So they, about the same time, and not too far from the PAA, founded their own club called the Concordia Club.
Right. Which closed.
Just closed
4
recently.
or 5 years ago, yeah.
Because, I mean, all these places are... They're sort of they're anachronisms now. They're also like the country clubs. This country club is for a certain kind of person.
My favorite when I first came to Pittsburgh was the Pittsburgh Golf Club that doesn't have a golf course.
Of course.
I've always thought that is the most ridiculous oxymoron.
Well, so what do they have? They have riding. What do they have? Tennis. They just have tennis.
I think they have a pool too. Yes, they do have a pool.
They really don't have a course.
No, there's not a golf course.
Well, how stupid is that?
I know, it's ridiculous.
Is that in Fox Chapel? That's the one in Fox Chapel?
No, it's the one right up Squirrel Hill,
Oh, there. Turns. Oh, but there's a little, but there's that city course there.
Not to my knowledge. I don't think so.
The Shenley Golf Course.
But that's something separate.
But that is not theirs anyway, because it's way too plebeian.
Yeah, that's right.
So what do they have? They don't have anything.
A lot of wasps.
Jeez. God. It's so odd. People are so odd.
Yes, they really are.
They really, really, really are. Okay, well...
Or on another level, you might say if you take the stigma out of social intercourse, people, like animals, like to
be with their own kind.
Yeah,
generally that's true. You stop doing that because it's coming across. You need something to fidget with. Take a pen. You and Potter.
He's a fidgeter too.
He's a fidgeter too. It cannot just sit quietly.
I'm not very zen, Lynn. You should know that by now. Neither are you. We're the unzen. Thursday is unzen day.
Oh, God. Okay, so.
I want to ask, I'm just looking at the screen in front of us, who is Gustavo in Vela? He sent you 700
Well, you don't know who Gustavo
in
Vela is? You don't listen to our spots. He runs spots on the show.
Oh, he does? Oh, I'm sorry. Well,
very interesting.
Thank you, Gustavo.
Yeah, exactly. He's a very interesting man.
Good.
He is from the country of Equatorial Guinea.
Oh.
Okay? His father was very high up in the government there. And then there was a coup or whatever. Anyway, the father ends up in the United States. Oh. Gustavo ends up in the U.S., not welcomed back. The current president has been in power for a long time now. He's a jerk. He's rich as hell because he's taking all the oil money and other stuff. The people are starving. And Gustavo is just constantly trying to build up awareness of this, and he keeps saying that he wants to go back and run for president.
Wow.
Of course, if he goes back, I would think he'd be imprisoned or killed. Right. So I don't know. But he's a very articulate man who lives in Pittsburgh. And you can see the passion because he's he's constantly sending stuff out. And he does run a spot. Is that spot running now?
Second one.
In the second break? No, it's okay. It's okay. We should actually take a break. Okay? And that we will, and we'll return in a minute or two.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
Pittsburgh City Paper is seeking 10 local artists to design their own street box for a public art project to be featured throughout the city of Pittsburgh. Go to pghcitypaper.com and click on the Art Box link for more details. The Pittsburgh City Paper Art Box Project, brought to you by McDonald's.
You in the City and Hosanna House Summer Nights present Jazz Under the Stars, starring Najee, Friday, July 13th. 8 p.m. at the Sherwood Event Center in Wilkinsburg. Tickets available at Dorsey's, Stediford's, or charge by phone at 1-800-383-5760. Najee, live in concert July 13th. Proceeds benefit Hosanna House, a place called Hope.
BergBargains.com for great deals on tickets to the Science Center, Symphony, History Museum, and the Carnegie Museums. Check out this week's big deal featuring 50% off tickets to En Vogue at Heinz Hall on June 29th. BergBargains.com, Pittsburgh's only online deal site where the deals don't expire. BergBargains.com.
Hey, Billy, want to go to the state fair?
Yeah!
Well, you can't.
Huh?
Well, you see, Billy, when you throw away money on wasted electricity, you throw away everything you could have done with it. But now your parents are becoming energy efficient. They could save hundreds of dollars a year and take you to the fair next year.
I want to go now.
I know you do. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at EnergySavers.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Energy and the Ad Council.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
Oh, yes, I agree.
I mean, it's just like, whoa.
I know, I agree.
And I remember when I was to India the first time, which was...
Whoa, we're on.
Okay. I was saying something where we piddle through the papers as opposed to piddling on them. And the lead photograph at the top of the fold in the New York Times today is a photograph in Mumbai showing, and the line is, in rising use of air conditioning, hard choices. And it's about the effect of air conditioners and... global warming.
And it's about what you're seeing, like a of course, a busy street with little shops, and above the shops, obviously, people, I imagine, live.
Yeah.
And there's all these...
There's like 70 air conditioners.
Window air conditioning units, sort of like, at all angles.
That hang outside the window on my
all
cars.
over the place. I mean, it just looks bizarre.
But it's interesting because I was saying when I was to India the first time in '85, I think it was, no one had air conditioning except even some of the best hotels, unless they were new. And now, obviously, these air conditioners, everyone has them plugged in, but then you just wonder the drain of that many on the
electrical grid there.
I remember visiting in what was the city? Yeah, that's right. It was in Calcutta, as they say, and the lighting was so bad that I was meeting with this guy who was the former editor of the Times of India. This amazing man, and every 10 minutes, all the lights in the city would go off because it was about 7 o'clock in the evening, and then they'd come on, and then they'd go off, and then they'd come on. And I said, "What is going on?" He said, "Oh, this happens all the time, And
don't worry, it'll happen here before it's over.
Well, that's probably true, but
so what their concern is, though, is
about the gases.
The gases, I think, the global warming, as India, as China, as they rise, and their people are able to stick these air conditioning units in there. So the sales of air conditioning units are going by 20% a year in China and in India as their middle class grows.
Amazingly.
But Yowie, the gases that are emitted are regulated primarily through a global treaty from 1987. I'm wondering if, do you think they were signatories to that? Maybe they were. It says the impact on the ozone treaty. God, whatever. Listen, let me tell you.
But the interesting thing about it, I was thinking like, India. But when we were probably never in a comparable thing, just given the history of our country, and certainly without the density. But we used to have emissions by buses, etc. But I wonder how long it will take India, just given the way government and society works there, for them to put strictures into law that this kind of crap won't do that.
Right, exactly. How their government works or doesn't.
And just for the sheer density of it.
I know. It's hard to...
It was bad enough here.
Yeah.
But now think about, when do you smell... I find the one thing I think is when I go abroad, the first thing that strikes me is auto emissions and cigarettes. Because you don't smell them anymore. But before, you never really noticed it. But once it's been cleaned up...
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So you're saying when you go abroad, you do smell auto emissions?
Because they do. They don't have the same thing. And same thing with cigarettes. Or dogs in restaurants. I remember being in Paris one time, and it was chilly. It was sort of February or something, although not freezing. And I remember I was in one of these cafes having some morning coffee, and there must have been like 5 people sitting there with these huge dogs coming in, which was sort of cute in a way, but you thought...
It's cute, but you think in terms of hygienic stuff.
I just thought of something interesting to talk about hygiene and dogs. There was a follow-up article in the Times Monday, maybe? It was this week. Remember we talked last time about those...
The microbiome,
bacteria.
yeah.
But this went into much greater detail because there was just a blurb really on the front of the journal. But this time they went into it, and one of the things they were talking about was very interesting. Particularly, they think they're going to have the first succces with...
Fecal transplants.
Right.
You think I didn't talk about that?
You did? Okay. But see, I told you we're the Romulus and Remus of the disgusting. But I thought that was fascinating. They would take your poop.
And they would take a thin person's poop.
Yeah, and then they dig out whatever they wanted. And then they would sort of, wash it off or something. And then stick it up inside you so that poop would grow.
That's right.
But it wasn't just about weight. It was also about...
a lot of things. There's good stuff and bad stuff in our guts.
Yeah, to fluoride, fluoride, whatever the word is, the bowel.
Right.
Fluoridate. No, that's something different.
No.
Deflower. No, that's something different, too. It's something like Floria, whatever.
Yes, right.
But I thought that was like,
Yes, fascinating. So all this stuff coming soon.
Yes. Put his poop inside you.
That's right.
That'll be a T-shirt.
No, that's true. Poop transplants. I mean, and you can say, I'm an organ donor, I'm a poop donor.
Yeah. I wonder if they're like dog poop or something.
Oh, one of my most embarrassing moments of my life. Well, I was very ill. And had been for some time, and I couldn't work, and nope.
Let's try this. Give a call.
How come every time I'm starting a story, somebody calls and interrupts me?
Well, the poop got to them, I'm sure.
All right, okay, let's go. Hello?
Hi, sadly.
Hi.
Sadly, I have a poop comment.
What?
Sadly, I have a poop comment.
You have a poop comment?
good.
Can we? She's way too hot. Can we take her down? Thank you.
You're freaking me out with this topic. I'm at the hairdresser last week. A guy I went to high school with. Mm-hmm. He said, "Did you hear Mrs. So-and-so died?" And I said, "No." He said, "I guess she had some kind of intestinal problem, constant diarrhea. He goes, this is going to sound weird, they transplanted poop into her from her son-in-law."
Yep.
I didn't realize that they had gotten to the point.
Well, that's cutting it. No, so, maybe that was a last ditch. Obviously, didn't help her because she's.
Yeah, it was something to, regulate how her bacteria was growing or something.
So they did it here? Is this here?
This was in Arizona.
Oh, okay.
She moved to Arizona.
Well, I'm telling you, it sounds like a very promising thing. I'm sorry it didn't work for Mrs. Whatever her name is.
Well, maybe she's in the experimental end, but imagine my surprise when you two are discussing it.
Well, pass it on, as they say.
Hey, thanks so much.
Thanks. Listen all the time. Thank you.
Bye. Yeah.
No, it's amazing. Well, it's like the guy, I said this last time, who said to me when I was in India that we all should drink a cup of our own urine every day.
Right, that's right.
And I thought about it at first. We were drinking, martinis or something. And I thought, ugh. And then I thought, well, maybe he's right. Who knows?
You haven't tried it, have you?
No, I haven't tried it. But I mean, who knows?
Well, it's probably true.
And you probably can put some sweet and low.
Yeah, that's right, or something. Well, a little club soda to just give it, something. Give it a little pizzazz.
It could be called a pitini or something, piso tito or something. Now, maybe someone will call about that. There's probably a club somewhere in Natrona Heights where they drink their own urine. Oh, the last time I said that on your show, we got a call. Remember when we were talking? This was when we were on the radio, and somebody go, dental hygienist. Remember that? Oh, I made a comment, and someone called who was a dental hygienist from Natrona Heights and sort of ripped us out for something we said.
About what? I
don't remember what it was. It was some scurrilous comment.
Well.
And it was the idea whether it's hygienist or hygienist.
Well.
Anyway.
We say hygienist generally, don't we?
Generally, I think so.
Hygienist.
How about the phone will ring?
Hygienist.
I think it was hygienist, this woman stressed.
Hygienist. Somehow that sounds sexual.
Or like a Nazi.
Yeah.
Hygienist beware.
Well, may I attempt my story, which harkens back to poop.
Poop, okay, very good.
Okay. I was very ill. I mean, nobody could figure out what was wrong with me. I was off the air for weeks and weeks. I attempted to come back and, immediately became so ill I couldn't. Yeah, just unbelievable. I mean, I was scared. I thought, they couldn't even. Sometimes I just started. I was just. I was a wreck. I mean, a total wreck. They're doing everything, every test known to man. I was at every doctor known to man. I was every blah 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 blah. And one day I'm lying supine. What is that?
Yeah,
supine. The difference between supine is on your back, or supine or prostrate is. They're different. I was lying.
Like discreet and discreet.
Yes. On my couch. And
sbragato, as they'd say in Italian.
And the doorbell rang. And I thought, oh no, I don't want. And I managed to get myself up, and I go to the door, and it's Fred Rogers.
Oh my goodness.
That's what I thought. Oh God. I said, Fred. He said, I heard you were so ill, and I've come to see you and make sure you're blah, blah, blah. I said, I'm really fine, really fine. We went back and sat in the living room. And I said, I was trying to reassure him I was just great. I said, as a matter of fact, Fred, I said, I'm going to get dressed in a minute, and I'm getting in the car, and I'm driving over to Allegheny General Hospital. He said, do you have another test? I said, no, actually, I have to bring them some poop.
A stool sample.
Right, some poop. And he said, well, don't be silly. He said, I'll bring it. And I don't know about you, but I couldn't deal with that. I said,
oh, I could.
Somebody,
if you wrapped it up.
Well, of course I was wrapped up, but I thought, I said, no. I said, you are not carrying my poop. Now, I can't handle it. We went back and forth for some time, and I won.
I think I would allow Mr. Rogers to carry poop if I'd allow anyone. Now, it's interesting. Now, that, in Catholic parlance, would be considered a corporal work of mercy. Because corporal works of mercy are feeding the hungry, soothing those who are dying, washing the turnips. I don't know, but it's all those things you do
for the
whatever
sick,
you do for
people.
The least of you do for me. That sort of thing.
Well,
so corporal work of mercy.
Of course, no surprise that he was so willing,
so kind,
and kind, and all of that. But
I could just see him walking in. Oh, Allegheny General, I have Lynn Cullen's poop in the bag.
Oh, the mortification of being ill.
So, may you share with us, with me and with your audience, what was wrong, or
it was never.
You never.
Quite,
wow. Jeez.
I mean,
that's when you start saying,
yeah, things were all askew.
Wow.
Levels weren't right.
Yeah.
This is and that.
Oh, dear.
And when they can't figure out anything, they call it viral syndrome.
Oh, right.
Viral syndrome.
What was that thing what was it? This was like 10, 15 years ago. But chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And I had one friend who for about a year.
No, there are
and
people,
she was the most violent. She
right.
was just schwach all the time.
Yeah. No, I think that really is real. God, thank God I pulled out of that. Gee.
That's what is frightening. Because at least they can say you have this. And, that's the end of you, or we can treat it with,
That's right.
But,
just some undefined, where you're really ill.
Well, there was just something in the paper the other day where is it? Was it Europe? No, somewhere in the Middle East, I think, where they now have a strain of TB that is resistant
it's in India.
to all. Oh, India.
It's
okay.
in India. And you know what else?
It's the fault of all
and
those air
where did
conditioners.
I read this damn country? Oh, Pakistan. What a vile place. Pakistan.
Callers.
Pakistan, the government is refusing to use polio, to dispense polio vaccine, when in fact Pakistan is one of the few places on earth where it still can be epidemic, but they're not doing it. Why? It has something to do...
Religious? Or
no, I think it has something to do with the United States or some kind of, political stuff.
Yeah, really.
I mean, it's insane. So kids will
but
get
what's
polio.
There's this stupid reality TV show called Pregnant in Heels or something like that. And it's about this woman, one of our writers, love you, Lynn, however, I would not carry your poop.
Well,
Thank you,
Margaret, that shows the extent of your friendship.
There will, as the nuns used to say to us, there will be no jewels in your crown in heaven, Margaret. Because those who carry the poop get about 5 rubies.
That's
but anyway,
right.
but this stupid oh, very good.
Supine is face up, lying down
Prone is
face up.
down.
And I must say, PJ, very good, but supine is not laying face up because laying is what a hen does to an egg.
Or a rapist does to a vixen.
Supine is lying face up. Prone is lying face down. I'll never get that straight. I'll never remember that.
There's just a little S or P or something like super or post. I don't know. Anyway. No, but back to polio. There's a stupid show called Pregnant in Heels, and it's about a very pricey woman who comes in and helps you if you're pregnant with all the preparations, both from the most mundane of getting I was going to say Methuselah. What are those? A doula. You know, a doula is someone who helps you.
Yeah, we know.
Okay, right,
Have you heard the latest, though? The birth photographer?
Oh, yeah. Well, the show was about this, to get a photographer, women who need their makeup done.
Sickening.
But anyway, on it, there was this woman, and this woman whose English was talking, like 3 months before, what the people should be preparing for, whether they should go to Lamaze classes. And she was talking about vaccination. And this young woman was not buying the polio thing. She says, no one has polio anymore. And the woman said, that's because of the virus. And this woman and her husband, the father of her child-to-be, was saying, like, you're stupid. And this mother could be like, I'm not going to have him vaccinated. Until they had to bring in someone who talked and showed grotesque pictures of children, with polio. But it's amazing. And there's this whole movement that's against any kind of vaccination.
Well, they're out of their minds. Yeah. And all these things that we thought were under control are coming back. Right.
No, I remember
more cases of whooping cough, more cases of mumps, more cases, all this stuff.
Well, even in my age, I was born in 1950, so I'm a grand old bag. But, one didn't think of whooping cough or what were some of those other things? Diphtheria, whatever, because the people had been inoculated.
But we still,
Well, in the Western world,
now they're inoculated against chicken pox, which I had. Right. Did you have that?
Yes.
I think you get inoculated against, a lot of stuff that we suffered through as children.
Right. Well, now, the other one with the measles, chicken pox, they really, and I remember I just had this done a couple of years ago, they really suggest you have
shingles vaccine.
Yeah, the 2 shots for shingles.
That is correct.
It will boost them up later in life. And I'm told shingles are horrible from people I know.
Terrible pain. Okay, we got to...
Today is the day of excreta and effluvia, isn't it?
Well, maybe we should try to elevate the discussion. Oh, he obviously doesn't want to.
No. I'm thinking, what can we elevate it to? Let's see the arts section.
Well, now, wait. Because I want to do a shout-out to Professor Jared Day at Carnegie Mellon University, who puts together news nuggets for us, which I feed off of. And I know so many other people.
That was a nice metaphor. Nuggets off which you feed. Very good.
Yes. And I think a lot of us do. And I know my sister does. And she's got friends all over, friends in Vancouver. We've got the nuggets way out there now. Today's edition of Daily News Nuggets is the 1,000th that Jared has put together.
So it's been 3-some years plus?
It would have to be.
Because he does it once a day?
Pretty much.
Okay.
There are some times when, he's been moving lately where he didn't get... but, yeah, he's indefatigable pretty much.
And for him.
And I don't know if you... Well, actually, that's where I saw those... where you saw those wonderful tornado pictures today.
Oh, that was his? Oh,
yeah, that's on News Nuggets. And so if you want to, again, get on it, it's daily, DAYLEE -news.blogspot.com, or just Google Daily News Nuggets and you'll get to it. And spell daily incorrectly, please. DAYLEE.
Oh, you and your the sidebar.
Yeah, and there are links. He's got links to all kinds of wonderful shows, Democracy Now!, this program, the Taylor Marsh program, the Commonwealth Club, On the Media, Fresh Air, Diane Rehm, who I can't listen to because of her voice, and I feel very bad about it.
I've never heard her.
Well, she's had a Washington show, NPR, very bright lady, but then something happened to her voice, and she was off the air for a long time, and then she came back. But the voice is so, it annoys me. I can't listen to it. I feel bad, though. But anyway, he also has, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, I mean, he's got links to everything you could want to link to. From the Atlantic Magazine to the Boston Globe to the Brookings Institution to the LA Times to the, good heavens, the National Catholic Reporter, the Progressive, the Rolling Stone, Salon, Wall Street Journal, and Yale. And news blogs galore and international news sources.
Wow.
Al Jazeera and Asia Times and BBC and Der Spiegel and Hindu.
And this is a job in and of itself.
Well, he does this for, he does it because I don't. Jared, why the hell do you do this? You see, he'll go to heaven for doing this too. He's trying.
Well.
I
don't think news nuggets are quite the same as healing the ill.
Yeah, but he's trying to educate.
No. Well, it is. Yeah, and it's a very fine product.
Right.
This photo of this, what is it? Ice falls.
Ice falls in Iceland. And that's the other thing. He posts always these amazing photos. Amazing photos. That's some reef. You see, I just...
Oh, what's that? Is that real? Oh, talk about, what is that?
That looks like the damn mosquito that bit me.
Oh, that's what I'm saying, but it almost looks like a brooch, doesn't it?
Oh, my God!
Oh, I thought it was metal.
It's a drone. It looks like an insect.
Yeah, it does, but you could see the sort of metal.
Yeah. I'm sorry. This is not making good radio when we're sitting here looking at pictures.
No, there's a picture of this, what looked like a mosquito, but it was a drone, and I thought it was a brooch because of the nature. Ooh, a new baby. And what is that?
Okay, we got to stop.
Yeah, this is...
Okay, we got to stop. Those are amazing because here two newly discovered geckos in Madagascar, and they're just, you could not, if you were doing a sci-fi movie,
right?
You wonder where they get these ideas of what these strange beings would look like.
Look at nature.
Look at nature.
But what's interesting about this picture, just to say, it's a perfect example of a sort of evil-looking thing in Star Wars, but also the beautiful camouflage.
And
that
the
makes
colors.
If you'd walk quickly, you'd think it's a leaf on
That's
this
right.
tree.
They're just amazing.
Nasty
just
little...
amazing. I was a butterfly outside yesterday that I was looking at, and he was beautiful. It wasn't a monarch, but monarch-like in that it had those kinds of colors, brilliant colors. And then he just sat down on the table in front of me, and he folded those beautiful wings up. And when he folded them up, on the back side of them, it looked like a dead leaf. It was just brown. It looked exactly like a dead leaf.
Yeah, well,
so
that's how they
that's
keep away from
unbelievable.
geckos.
So he's brilliant when he wants to, I guess, attract one of his own, and then when he wants to protect himself, I'm a dead leaf.
Yeah.
It's just brilliant.
No, when you think of sort of nature and whatever order and from whom or what it comes.
Well, that's why I know. It's just unbelievable.
Extraordinary. Or porcupines that shoot the other things. Or other
There's
things
so much going on in the...
Skunks that spray you. I mean, it's amazing the different kind of defenses that we have.
Wow.
Or drag queens, so we can become cyclical, who throw out their own verbal barbs.
Oh.
See?
And now we're back to circles. Everything is a circle. I got to take a break. Turn to everything. Ooh. Right? There is a season.
But everything
and
a purpose under heaven.
Who
was that?
What's turn?
Yeah. To every season, turn.
There's a
was that
turn.
Thing. That's it.
All right.
Now, was that Joan Baez?
No.
The Birds.
It was some group.
Really?
Birds. It was the Birds. You're right. Okay. Somebody stop us. That'd be you, Jess.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Vote now. Who will be the chosen one in Pittsburgh City Paper's annual Best of Readers poll and register to win a new iPad? Pittsburgh City Paper, available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Gustavo and Vella wants to thank all of southwestern Pennsylvania, the USA, and the world for helping to liberate his native country of Equatorial Guinea. Equatorial Guinea has suffered 43 years of dictatorship, 43 years of human rights abuses, 43 years of corruption, and 43 years of kleptocracy. Even with $5 billion in oil revenue in 2011, the 700,000 citizens of Equatorial Guinea earn less than $2 per day. A proud Mount Lebanon resident, please help Gustavo and Vella usher in the 21st century by allowing freedom, democracy, and socioeconomic prosperity by the rule of law for the next 43 years and beyond. Email him at presidentandvella@yahoo.com to help free Equatorial Guinea.
Get Lynn Cullen live on your smartphone. Go to citypapermobile.com now for Pittsburgh City Paper's brand new mobile app. Get the latest restaurant reviews, event listings, movie times, and of course, Lynn Cullen live on your smartphone. citypapermobile.com.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, guys, welcome back. We got some emails to catch up on. Thank you for reminding me that the reason the Pakistani government will not safeguard its children from polio is because they're mad at our drone strikes.
Let's talk
and, stop. So what is
to spite your face.
What kind of stupidity is that? Because you have killed some of our innocent people, we will cripple a bunch of innocent children. What kind of crap?
Yeah, really.
Okay.
Well, or maybe is it also because they would have to buy the product from American?
Here's a way to remember. Supine means lying, looking
nice.
up. Supine is like spine.
Yes.
Just got that U in there.
She's a nurse.
And
she
if
knows.
you're she is a nurse. So if you're on your back, you're lying on your spine. You're supine.
There. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I might actually remember that now.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
Like I just remember taking Latin. In acum de exub spine, which were all the what do you call that in language? That use the
Now, see, here's what's funny. You start spouting Latin, and then you can't remember English.
What do you? All the prepositions that take the genitive case. So the teacher would say, come back to the So when you're taking a test, you'd say, genitive case.
I don't even know what the genitive case is.
Well, it's usually like a daughter of Lynn's mother of Lynn.
Okay, Margaret, yours isn't as good. Margaret says, to remember supine, you're holding soup in your hand.
Well, I guess you couldn't do that.
Because you do it if you were face down, right?
The soup would be spelled.
All right.
Hers was better, I have to say.
Yeah, sorry. All right. Diane writes, poop is far more interesting and useful than the Republican Party.
Thank you, Diane.
And thank you,
Agreed.
Diane.
Touche.
Yes. Gee. Oh, do we have you all in here then? I think so. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, yes, that's
I'm actually even on the wrong email. Let me get back. This is okay. So here's something I wanted to. You mentioned him a moment ago, but I wanted your, and I'm sure I know, but one of the obits today is the artist LeRoy Neiman, who is. Very popular artist. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows his stuff. You can tell it a mile away.
Right.
I always hated it. I thought it was awful. The problem of what it was. Well,
I don't know if I've told this story here before, but I once had a engagement with Burton Morris, a local artist who now for a number of years lived in Los Angeles. And, he's a very good graphic artist. Everyone has seen his
You can tell his stuff a mile away, too.
And to make a very long story short,
Yeah.
a guy called me who was sort of acting as his press guy and said, "Oh, Tom, Burton always sees himself as the legatee of Andy Warhol, pop imagery." And I said, "Well, on one level I can see that, but he's really a great designer, not an artist." And she said, "Oh, you really should tell him that." So this went back and forth. So finally he said, "Oh,
well,
would you
he doesn't
come
want to hear that.
Wait, this is the story." So I finally went out to his house, and sitting there I was talking with the agent and Burton's wife, who now is like the director of the Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but I think they want to get rid of her.
Then
Okay, let's not do this.
But she was an artist herself anyway. Then Burton comes in, very nice guy. And we've kept up a kind
very nice guy
friendship, And so he said, "Tell Burton what you said." So I did this. And I said, "You're a wonderful designer. You have wonderful graphic sense. Your images are memorable, just like a product. You want to remember what Coca-Cola looks like so you know what to grab for when you go to the supermarket." But I said, art is about something more than that. I mean, Warhol, when he did Campbell Soup or whatever, he was in various ways commenting about what that soup meant, a packaged product, Americans' ability to make 8 million cans a year, and they're always good and they're always fine. They taste the same anywhere. They're cheap. American mass production was brilliant. And then when the first time they found botulism in canned tuna, Warhol did a painting of that, and he called it Tuna Fish Disaster. And the reason he called it that was the fact of not just these women died from eating A&P tuna, but the fact that it was a disaster for American mass production, because now things were tainted. And you could never know when you're making your kid tuna salad whether he's going to die or not. Anyway, so back to LeRoy Neiman, I think the same thing. So I said to Burton, "Well, why don't you're talented, do something on," and I forgot what was going on in history. I think it was the first Gulf War. Do something on that. "Oh, I really couldn't," and blah, blah, blah. And I said, "Burton, you do something like that." And I said, "It doesn't have to be violent or sarcastic, but just that takes the guts of it." And so over the years, he'll send an email or something. He's a really nice guy. But I would say the same thing is true of LeRoy Neiman. It's about so much liking, like in his case, sport, that it's more about that and being almost in the service of, without being the artist who comments on the sport. Like I remember Warhol did a painting that was of the baseball player, what was his name? Roger Maris.
Okay.
And Roger Maris was of the same time as, what was the other famous baseball player?
Mickey Mantle.
Yeah, Mickey Mantle. And Roger Maris was someone who, in one year, did hit more home runs than Babe Ruth did.
Yes.
And was criticized, like, how dare you? Nowadays we'd say, hey, he ran faster, he threw the ball, blah, blah. But at that point, you've somehow sullied the saint, Babe Ruth. And it turns out he actually was a better, because the outfield had gotten larger and balls had gotten bigger, so to hit that many was, really a challenge. And poor guy, because, he thought he was doing well, turned into an alcoholic, and I think either committed suicide or something. Yeah. And so Warhol did this image where it was a multiple image of the guy swinging the bat, but it's sort of like him disintegrating. So Warhol was commenting on the fact that what makes it art, in addition to the aesthetics of it, was the fact of, here, American sports, baseball, it's the best thing for you. It's commentary, and it's saying it's not about just doing it well, but it's about what your backers want, what the people who, the companies that are sponsoring you want, and it's not pure anymore. That's what makes it art. And that's why I think, Neiman, although he had certainly a good, he was dexterous with a pencil and ink, but it was just always an illustration, like a court reporter. Those little things you see.
Right. Amazing. So here's what PJ says about Burton Morris. Speaking of poop, there is no small coincidence that his initials are BM, as far as him being an artist.
Oh, my.
But he is
Slim
a
Jim,
kind
you're a wag.
So he's a kind of
graphic designer, and that's its
designer.
own.
That's what he is.
There's
no shame in that.
An organization I'm involved with, we were picking a new logo the other day, and we were talking, and I brought up the fact of some of these great, logo designers, like who did, I don't know if you remember the Chase Manhattan symbol, which was an oval with a star inside of it.
Yes.
And it still is just so sharp, and and then others that come and go. But it's its own skill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I think graphic design is, this just struck me, in the service of a bank or a supermarket or whatever. Art is about taking on that thing and critiquing it.
Mm-hmm.
And
so for those of you who are trying to think of what does Burton Morris's stuff look like, there's almost a comic strip, cartoony quality to it. So you might see pow and sharp and I don't.
Very, very primary colors.
You see, I mean, actually, I think on some TV shows, was it Friends that used his stuff a lot on their sets?
Yeah.
So you see a lot of Burton Morris stuff on ties and things.
Well, I remember here in Pittsburgh, he was when we had the. What's that baseball game where they All-Stars. He did all the banners, and I think the last Olympics.
Very well might have, yeah.
And he did them very, very well.
Right. Exactly.
But it's sort of, again, decoration and in the service of, and in those instances, it's very appropriate.
Exactly.
But if you're going to comment on the Olympics or on whatever and say more than just, wow, it's here, then you have to sort of get it. I remember.
And what was Burton's reaction to the fact that, he wants to be an artist?
Well, what he said to me wasn't that's fair. He said, Tom, I know what I do and how I do it and how I think about it. And I said, I'll give you that. And some people are always sort of critiquing and angry, and that could get excessive as well, just like we began about Sharon Needles.
Sharon Needles, right.
But I think you have to have, I always think there's this one great portrait of a pope, was it Julius II? I think so, and two of his nephews. And the Pope at that point was quite elderly. He was one that lived, very senior years, 80s or something, back in the 16th century. And he's seated there on his throne, and you see his hands holding the pummels.
Yes.
And if you look closely, I remember a teacher in my first art history course, they look at the hands.
They look like claws.
Yeah, and then the two people behind him are standing there, but they're both like waiting for him to die, because one of them then
will
becomes
become
his successor.
Right.
But it's such a brilliant portrait because it was not so caricaturish that the Pope was like, I don't want that. It was grand enough, but anyone who looked close could tell it was a character study in these personalities, and the Pope knew that these nephews were like praying mantises.
Who did that painting?
Raphael, right.
It's
a fabulous portrait.
Yeah.
And that's great art, because if you make it so much caricature, the commissioner would have thrown it out. But if you just have that subtlety, and that's what I always tell people, look close, and everything in a work of art begins to uncover itself for you.
Well, that's interesting, because I thought you were supposed to step back.
No. What was it? Who was it? No.
You're not supposed to look.
Who was the artist?
Close.
Oh, it was.
You're supposed to back up.
Oh, damn! I can't think of his name. American artist. There was this play called Red about him. Shit, I can't remember his name. Anyway, but he had this thing of you stand 17 inches away, and that's where you could see. And he had this young in the play, but it was true. This young assistant, he kept saying, "Sit there." And this guy was there for 10 minutes. Sit there longer. Did you get it yet? Sit there.
Oh my Lord. Rothko.
Yes, it was Mark Rothko. That's right.
Yeah. Well, that's ridiculous.
Well, no, not really.
Maybe for his art. What?
Well, yeah, I would say for his art, but I think he would say, because I remember in the play, he would say, like, his assistant said, well, you're late. Well, I went to the MoMA and I was sitting in front of Picasso's Demoiselle d'Avignon, and so everyone's art to catch, because I think a complicated thing, whether it's a meal or a piece of text or a piece of music.
Well, like if you got too close to a Seurat.
Yeah, then it just becomes,
it disappears.
Yeah,
you don't even see.
Because you don't want to see. One of my favorite things, I maybe said it here, is one of my favorite words, but it really tells a story. In Italian is.
Oh dear God! Don't.
Sprezzatura. And sprezzatura means the ability to do something extremely difficult, but make it look effortless. So a ballerina who does 32 fouettes, or Joe Namath throwing a football 500 yards or whatever, or one of the Walendas who's still alive walking on a wire. You don't just get up and do it. Because I remember one time going to the ballet some years ago. I was a graduate student, and getting a seat in the front row, because that's not the best place to sit. And I thought, "Ooh, how neat!" But all I remember was while they were, and you hear them say, "Oh shit! Oh, ouch!" and it took away all of that.
Yeah, you were too close.
Elan.
Too close.
It was like the willing suspension of disbelief.
That's right. So it's a wonderful sound.
Sprezzatura.
Sprezzatura.
Right. And it came from a book called The Book of the Courtier by a man named Castiglione, the same period of Raphael. And it was like what you had to do, a courtier had to do at court. All of these, you bowed, 1 inch for a duke and 3 inches for a count and 15 inches for a king. But it had to be, weren't measuring as you went down, but just all these effortless things, because all of the courts had built all these rules in so that none of the people who were enemies of the court could have time to, have insurrection, because they were worrying how many inches they had to bow.
God.
I love it. Sprezzatura.
Sprezzatura. And on that lovely word, we shall leave you. I thank you.
Goodbye.
Mr. Sokolowski.
Thank you,
Don't say
Madam.
goodbye. It sounds so...
Goodbye,
fine.
no more leading with our chins.
There you go.
This is where our story ends. Never lovers, always lovers, never friends, or something. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Whoops.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.